going on, guys? I'm a regular guy with the Regular Guy Firearms channel. Thanks for watching. Now, this guy you guys may have seen on social media outlets like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, and those of you that have seen it there, you also understand that I very much like this individual rifle. Those of you that have seen this in person or shot it in person, like for instance in the last Rifle 1 class that I did, my buddy Mike used this with a Trijicon AccuPower and Cannon irons on it. Those of you that have shot it personally really enjoyed this guy as well. But what this is that this guy is a setup from RWMD, and I'm talking mostly about the upper receiver because the lower is mine. It's from a different company. But what we are talking about is Ross Weapons and Military Design. That's their politically correct term. You can tell what the other one is going to be. Ross Weapons of Mass Destruction, whatever. But this is an AR that I very much value, mostly because of its individual performance, how well it does, and the stuff that's in it. Now, I'm going to talk about this upper receiver as well as the full-sized rifle, because there are some little differences in the lower receiver of the rifle that they sell that really do stand out to me. Now, the first thing that I'm going to say is here's what this rifle is not. This rifle is not the quote-unquote game changer that a lot of people try to sell, like for instance the LVOA and rifles like it. This is also not a terribly innovative rifle either, because what this is, and this is exactly what this rifle is that this is a properly put together parts rifle for less than what it would take you to run out and individually purchase the parts and then assemble a rifle yourself. Okay, so because there are a million different types of ARs and stuff like that on the market, and because I noticed that my AR reviews are starting to turn into many, there is something that I'm going to have to do from here forward, and that's start to read the short list of specs that come with a lot of these guns. Because there is a difference in quality between companies that take shortcuts and companies that don't, or companies that want to produce something a tier above quote-unquote mil spec. Makes sense? So we're going to go from here to there. Now, the first thing is its weight. With a set of iron sights on it only, no optic or light or anything like that, nor a loaded magazine, the gun is about 6 pounds. Now, the difference between mine and theirs is very little, but there is a little bit of difference in weight, but it's only because I have different doodads on mine than what they choose to put on. So there you go on that. Now, I would not have believed this whatsoever when I had a Trijicon AccuPower on here, Cannon irons, a light, and a loaded magazine, but it is indeed right around 6 pounds. We're talking an ounce or so in either direction, depending. Now, in mine, because there are different doodads, it was like 1.3 ounces heavier. Not a big deal. Now, this is in fact a DI gun, and yeah, I'm reading from a spec sheet, which aids in a lot of things that we'll talk about here fairly shortly. Now, they sell several barrel lengths. They have the rifle length guns that are 14.5 pin to 16 inches with the muzzle device on it. The muzzle device that they use on this model, the LE model, which is their lesser of the two models, is a Surefire dual port that's non-suppressor ready. Their SEC, or their super enhanced carbine, which is their better of their two guns, or the more enhanced of the two guns, is suppressor ready. Now, the rail system on this I've gotten a lot of questions about. This is from Centurion, and this is one of those types of rail systems that's not key mod or M-lock and stuff like that. They chose to go with this rail for consistency's sake, because you can just very easily screw stuff in versus having to go to the vastly varying key mod and M-lock markets. From what I've seen so far, the key mod is a little bit better about being consistent as far as standards than M-lock, but either way you still have to deal with those things, and either way you still have to Loctite screws. So they chose to go with a route that I would choose to go on, and that's with the Centurion rails directly screwing stuff in there. Now, some people would bring up the screw stripping issue, but I have stripped enough screws to not strip these screws. So there you go. Now, moving on to the barrel itself. Now, this is something that's very, it's not necessarily unique in the gun guy world, but it is unique for people to put into a fighting rifle rather than like a special purpose rifle or something like that. Now, with their barrels, they choose to take a very specific type of steel for this, and I'm gonna make sure that I get the numbers right. What they call it here is the RWMD custom profile 416R stainless steel custom profile barrel. What they basically do is that it's a stiffer barrel that doesn't taper up, it just tapers down all the way down the length of the barrel itself, so that you still have the heavier resistance to heat and stuff like that, and greater consistency of holding its cold shock groups together than you would, for instance, a lightweight profile barrel or a government profile barrel or even a SOCOM profile barrel, which tends to taper up because of its individual profile and its need to attach a 203 grenade launcher and stuff like that. So now with their barrels individually, there are some guys that can ask this question, well, what type of barrel blanks and stuff do they use? Because there aren't that many different people that build fighting rifle barrels in the AR world, really. Now, what RWMD uses is that they use Douglas barrel blanks, which is a very high quality barrel producer. A lot of times when you go to precision rifle competitions and stuff, there's usually a couple of different types of barrel makers that tend to keep winning when they're backed by proper shooters, and that's people like Douglas and Krieger and stuff like that. So they use Douglas barrel blanks in their barrels, and they use ballistic advantage to turn them out and produce the profile that they want and all that jazz with the particular type of steel that they have. So there's a very high quality barrel in this individual setup here, and the barrel quality is very important if you're trying to keep the gun accurate. Okay, now with the gas block itself, they're using a low profile standard, which is not that big of a deal. The sights that that a lot of people would ask whether or not is included with the gun is not. So they don't include a set of iron sights or anything like that, but obviously it's ready for any of the junk that you want to put on there. Now, the gas tube itself is a QPQ 304 stainless steel gas tube. We're looking at a 7075 T6 aluminum flat top upper, the standard basically. We're looking at a few other things as far as they personally choose to go with the Raptor charging handle. It's my personal favorite. There are some of you that may think otherwise, but personally I really dig this about them because it's what I prefer in guns anyway. Now, they use a PDQ ambi bolt release in their lower receivers. For those of you guys that don't know what that is, it's actually an ambidextrous bolt release that gets put into where you basically have to cut out sections of the lower receiver and add the little doodad in there. It's really similar to like a Knight's Armament bolt release. The only difference is that you can actually use this guy to lock the bolt to the rear, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Now, here's something that's pretty neat. They use the ALG enhanced combat trigger in the LE guns, which is fine. It's a polished up, good to go trigger and stuff like that. What's in this gun is an older style Super 3 gun from Geisley. Obviously, there's a little bit of difference between what they produce and what we have. Their lower receivers themselves are also using a ton of stuff from they're also using a ton of stuff from Battle Arms, and this includes their takedown pins, their magazine release, and that's paired with a Norgon Ambi magazine release. I personally prefer the Troy, and that's probably just because I've been exposed to pretty much all of it by now. They're using the Battle Arms Ambi safety and several other internal parts for their lower receiver. Also, their lower receivers have the adjustable set screw in it that basically keeps the upper and lower receivers from having additional play in them. That in itself is different from something like an AccuWedge, which comes in a lot of budget companies, because the Accu wedges are made out of rubber and they push the upper and lower receiver apart and can eventually wallow out like takedown pinholes and stuff like that, making the problem worse. They decided to go with a much better solution for that, and that's just to use an adjustable set screw so that you can make sure that your upper and lower fit nice and tight so that there's no additional slop. Now, so what does this all really come together for? What this comes together for is, and this is on their lesser gun. Okay, this is a non-adjustable gas block version of what they have, because and this is the LE, the SEC has an adjustable gas block that you can actually use to adjust very easily and tailor it to ammunition and stuff. But talking about this individually, what does this really equate to? What is all of this expensive mumbo jumbo that starts to add in dollars, by the way? What does that eventually translate to as far as the gun is concerned? Why do you need all of this expensive crap embedded into a rifle? Now, first and foremost, I'm going to start by saying this is not something that you're building up for a first-time shooter. A lot of this stuff is a bunch of little things that add up into bigger things. Little things that shooters that have taken a lot of time and invested a lot of energy into mastering their craft would notice. Okay, just for instance, the gas port in here is set with the gas tube length. This is a mid-length gun, by the way, so that and the gas port diameter itself is set to where it cycles very, very smooth with the right amount of gas without overgassing the shit out of the gun. Okay, it is gassed properly to where it'll still run lower power ammunition. Like in that Rifle 1 class that I mentioned that my buddy Mike was running this gun in, he ran Tula through this gun the entire time. No issues. Not one. Not a, other than an operator error from him, he didn't have a single issue out of this. As far as reliability and stuff is concerned, I have taken this gun and fired over 4,000 rounds through it while only adding lubrication to it. And you can see exactly how dirty this guy is now. Shit. It's really cringeworthy. And like I may or may not have mentioned already, every once in a while it doesn't pick up the first round off of magazines. Mostly GI magazines, but as you can see, it's actually pretty inconsistent. So every once in a while, those are the only issues I had, but that's only because I kind of overshot the thing. Additionally, when we're talking about accuracy in the rifle and stuff like that, you can see the difference between very early in the day when I'm firing my first 3-shot group and after a day's worth of shooting and going back to fire practical accuracy groups out of a barrel that's already hot. And you can see the difference between those two now. So in the end, it's one of those things where, to me, this is very exciting because it's a rifle that's light enough, it's accurate enough, it's reliable enough, and it's flat shooting enough to where it doesn't really do the gun justice to sit there and just say, oh, well, I can be super flat shooting and super fast with it and all that other jazz. But when you compare it to a gun of similar length, you can even say that as well, because the difference in how smooth and how flat this thing cycles to an overgas gun with the same barrel length. Sitting here and comparing the two, there's no real comparison between the two. You guys could see very obviously not just the difference in muzzle rise, because a brake only does so much of that. It only solves so much of the problem. Having the proper gas port diameter, having the proper gas tube length, and material construction itself, and ammo has something to do with it for sure. But having not just the brake, but the gas system itself tuned properly is absolutely important when you're trying to smooth out a rifle and make it easier to shoot faster and more accurately under speed. So realistically, what does this actually do for you? You know, what does it do that's different from a bunch of the signature pieces out there that a lot of dudes just attach their names on and say, go buy this because it's badass? You know, well, first and foremost, this is not like a signature piece like a freaking LVOA or a Jack carbine or something like that, because it's really difficult to piece their specs exactly and still come out ahead on cost or even break even. I started to do it myself a little bit. I started piecing all this stuff together and figuring out that if I wanted the exact spec of those guys and ordering it from those companies individually, or going to places like Midway and picking up parts, what I would end up with is a more expensive rifle than $2,200. So that's the first thing. It's not just a convenience, it's they pull some of the cost away as well. Mostly because some of their stuff is made in-house from them. Some of their stuff is made in-house from them. Now, additionally, what it really is that it's different from a lot of the other stuff out there as well, especially like the M forgeries and whatnot, because it's damn near all of the little things, the little itty-bitty things, from takedown pins to a set screw to gas port diameter to muzzle device choice, bolt and carrier group, recoil spring choice, with all of the little things that they're doing correctly and then putting it together properly make this thing a superbly accurate, reliable, dependable rifle in all regards. And it's light enough to where it's not going to kill you if you carry it for hours either. Does that make sense? So, really, I mean, is it one of those guns that you get as a first-timer thing? No. I personally wouldn't think so, mostly because most of the stuff that a gun guy will notice is something that a gun guy with years of experience in the gun guy world and thousands upon thousands of rounds shot would experience, number one. And really, if it's a first-time rifle, I would still tell you to go to BCM. However, if you've been doing this dance for a while and you've been looking for that rifle that goes really, really close to doing pretty much everything that you'll need, to where, yeah, this is not going to do everything that you need, but it does a lot of it really, really well. And the shorter versions really help compensate, and the shorter version really helps compensate for the CQB type stuff. And it's what a bunch of SWAT guys have decided to use. Because they do deal to law enforcement in the area, in the Tampa area. But can it do everything? No, but it can do most of it a lot better than most people. Does that make sense? So, I encourage you guys to check them out. These guys are setting up to where they're dealing to people, and they don't have so much an online store set up. But you can send Ross an individual email, and if you're willing to go through the individual order route, they will accommodate you on that as well. If you're looking for an individual upper, it's one of those things where they're not as willing to do just uppers, and I understand that because it's like they're only building half of their kid rather than the whole thing. But they'll still go ahead and do that as well. Obviously, I ended up with an upper. So, if you guys want to support us, go ahead and check out the Patreon thing that we set up. We'll have a link for that in the description below. And if you want details on what we do for you guys and others with Patreon, go ahead and check out the video I just did. But go ahead and send in your questions. And remember, guys, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny.